from many different backgrounds of work. The professional firefighters who do this year-round, a highly unionised workforce. Our emergency workers like the AMBOs and the police. The health professionals, our nurses and our doctors, and it's great to see people from the Nurses and Midwives Union here today. The people who are involved in the recovery, the council workers, the electricians, the plumbers, the builders, and of course the countless working people involved in community organisations, wildlife rescue organisations and others who support the recovery efforts. Unions are also heavily involved and actively planning to ensure that there is a just transition. We need to remember the workers who will be affected by the transition to renewable energy, to clean energy. It needs to happen, but we need to support those communities. Those communities will not support governments that want to take action on climate change unless they know they have a certain future, they have a secure future. So we need investment in job-creating opportunities in each of those communities. It's not just the directly affected workers, it's not just the power workers, it's not just the coal miners, it's the whole community, it's the teachers, it's the small business people, it's the nurses, it's the whole community that our plans need to lift up and ensure that they can thrive. Currently, the trade union movement is supporting the fundraising effort. We shouldn't have to do that because governments should be supporting these efforts. We need more than the $2 billion that's been put in place. We know that governments should be supporting our firefighting efforts. We know that governments should be buying the materials that are needed to support these efforts. But for now, we are supporting the fundraising efforts, and we'd encourage people here to do the same. We'd encourage you to go to our union websites to do just that. If you have the skills to volunteer to help in the recovery effort, we are encouraging union members to do that. And again, you can go to the Queensland Union's website and sign up. The Firefighters Union is calling for a Royal Commission. And if we have a Royal Commission, and we need one, it needs to address the issue of climate change. I recently had a friend goading me about why there was no mention of climate change. He believes to put it kindly, I'd say he's a climate change skeptic. He was goading me to say after the Black Saturday bushfires, why was there no mention of climate change in the 2009 Royal Commission? There was. The difference then was people agreed that it was real, people agreed that it was happening and that we needed to take action on it. They had evidence before the inquiry from the chief scientist of the CSIRO who convinced them, and the commissioners did not take much convincing, that climate change was going to drive worse bushfires in the future, that it was a factor in those bushfires back in 2009. They took the evidence of the Bureau of Meteorology, and they accepted that the politicians in power in Victoria at the time and in the Commonwealth also believed that climate change was real and that they were taking action on it. I think it's a shame they went no further than that, just to say it's real and people are taking action. Because if they had, and if a whole lot of other people had spoken up at the time, we might not find ourselves in this position right now. People are angry right around the country for a whole range of different reasons. But as I've seen this unfold, one of the things that has driven my anger is that 10 years after that Royal Commission, 11 years after the Garner report, we are in a situation where we have a government that simply does not believe that climate change is real, and that's what's driving their actions. Have a look at what they've done. In November, when there were fires raging around us throughout the country and here in Queensland, their top priority was to push through the federal parliament a union-busting bill. That was their top priority. Their other priority was the religious discrimination bill. No mention in the parliaments from this government about the crisis that was starting to unfold, that was already unfolding. In December, he told volunteers that they didn't need to be compensated and that they wanted to be out there. We'll just ask Paul Parker from Nelligan what he thinks about that. He needed to say that because for him this had to be business as usual. In December, as we've already heard and as you know, he went on holidays. He did that. He did that because for him and his government this was business as usual. To even think about compensating firefighters would be to recognise that there was a crisis, that this wasn't business as usual. And that would take delving into the reasons for it and would force them to acknowledge that perhaps climate change was a factor and perhaps they should be doing something about it. But they didn't. And now he's saying that he believes in climate change. Now he's saying he believes it. His past actions would tend to indicate that that is crap. A bloke does not take a piece of coal into Parliament and goad the opposition with it if he believes that climate change is real. His recent actions would say to me that there has been no road to Damascus experience for Scott Morrison. He should step down. The problem is, who takes his place? Who takes his place? Because we have an entire government of deniers and sceptics. And it's interesting to watch how their argument progresses, that it becomes harder and harder to maintain the view that climate change is not real. First of all, it was a hoax. Then it was real, but it's not humans who are driving it. Then, and now, the argument is that our emissions are so small in Australia that there is nothing that we can really do about it. It denies that we are one of the highest emitters in the world per head of population. It denies our role in driving climate change internationally. We have in this country 1.24% of global emissions. But if you look at all of the countries who have less than 2% emissions, they make up 40% of global emissions. Why this is not an occasion where we say we should act collectively with other countries in the world on this international problem is beyond me. The final thing I'll say is this. The other argument they're starting to use now is that, of course, we are meeting our emission reductions targets. We are meeting the Kyoto Protocol targets. Emissions increased from 1999 to 2007 under John Howard. They decreased from 2008 to 2013. Each year they went down. Since 2013, since Tony Abbott came to power, emissions have increased every single year since he abolished the so-called carbon tax. The problem is not just Scott Morrison, it's the whole government and any government that does not prioritise this issue. Which leaves us with what are we to do? We need to continue to campaign to remove this government, to get a government that will really take action on climate change. But there are things that we should be doing in our communities each and every day. If you are not part of an organisation which gives a bugger about climate change, join one. Join one today. And if you are a member of one of those organisations, get active. Make sure you're doing something. And if you are active in those organisations, make sure that all of us are collaborating to keep the pressure on and to take actions in any way that we can to reduce emissions. We can do that in a whole stack of ways. You can do it in your workplaces. You can set up workplace committees that talk about this issue and decide on actions that you might want to take to drive down emissions in this country. There's a whole range of ways we can be involved, but we need to do it together. We need to do it collaboratively. All the groups involved in this need to work collaboratively for a better country, for a better climate. We can do it together. Thank you.